Welcome to the Level Up Your Band podcast, episode 66. Hello, and welcome back to the Level Up Your Band podcast. My name is Gavin Patterson. I'm here with Julian Pombo.
Hi.
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 So, how are you? I know how you are, but we've spent the last half hour.
Yeah. I'm gonna give the typical British response of, yeah, not too bad.
That's
too bad.
Perfectly fine response.
Yeah. Not too bad. All things considered.
Gotcha.
The most British response ever. Yeah. Things are fine. The pandemic's getting to me, but isn't it getting to everybody? But we're almost out. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
It's who knows? By the time this episode comes out, we're probably out. You know?
Yeah.
Are starting to get out of the whole.
We are
all the nonsense.
We are 3 weeks behind. So tomorrow is Star Wars Day. So it's May 4th tomorrow.
Oh, so it is. That's nuts.
So I think this will be coming out on like the 26th of May, by which point we'll be in level 2. We're in level 3 currently, level 4 being the hardest. I think level 0 is sometime in June. But it's things are looking up. Rehearsals are starting back, recording sessions are starting back. There's talk of gigs, you know.
I know, right?
Socially distanced 30 people at weddings gigs, but I
don't think last I heard it was 50.
I think it's either 30 or 50, I don't know, but I might have to do a couple of socially distanced gigs before it fully opens up. I don't know. It depends on it's a bit weird. Because you can't ceilidh dance. You can't really dance so much.
Right.
It's bizarre. But I mean, I think it'll be back to normal before we know it. It's about time. Anyway, so today, I think I'm going to call this episode How to Let Your Song Grow. So I was thinking about this just the other day. So kind of similar to how people talk and people exchange ideas. Because we talked about this a couple of episodes back about how like an idea is conveyed via speech and an emotion can be conveyed via music or art. It's more human emotions, unspoken kind of thing. And like ideas don't exist in a vacuum. You need to, throw them out there and see how people take them, and their response to your ideas informs your own opinion. You'll see that, like, and say you've got a kind of a loose opinion about something, and maybe you voice it to a friend, and they're like, "Oh, that opinion is terrible," and then you're like, "Oh, maybe I need to rethink my thing," and then you kind of adjust. You're the average of all the people you know. Is kind of what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I thought, well, it's kind of the same for music. It's kind of the same for, and I would say that's basically what a band is just exchanging in musical ideas and bouncing them back and forward, and until you get to something that sounds like the band. So I'm gonna talk about those people we like to call roasters. That what would you call stop that from happening? Impede.
Impede.
Stifle. Yeah. So it's the equivalent. So we call them roasters in music, where they stop the sort of exchange of musical things.
Or make the exchange somewhat difficult in one way or another,
Yep, or stopping people from voicing their opinions, which is another form of that. So, and it comes from a place. It comes from a place that's understandable. It can be understandable, but it's So for some people, one of the hardest things to do when recording their material is allowing the creative process to take place without their over-encompassing micromanaged control. So
Right.
you've got a band, 5-piece band, and the guitarist writes all, the melody and the song, the lyrics, brings it in, and we'll say either in recording or rehearsal, we'll start rehearsing. It's hard coming in with something to some people, and I've got a set structure on how I want this song to be. Play it as it is, and when someone fights back and goes, oh, I'm not playing this. Why is this bridge 32 bars long? It should be 16. Or why is the blah 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 this and that? And you start to get tension.
Yeah. Yes.
So, for example, trying to think. In our own band, right? We are quite. I think the reason why we are good at doing this is because the person who writes the melody in our band usually isn't that precious about things changing about it.
Right. And even when we have ideas and things like that, where the way that we deal with the way that we deal with criticism and things like that, we're quite open and honest, and we know that there's nothing personal about anything. It's got nothing to do with the person's character. It's just, I don't like that idea, and then we're like, okay, cool. Well, can we? So, I would say that on top of that, we're also pretty mature people, I think. When it comes to that kind of thing. But
I love that form of getting a band sound. I love that because you have a band of people, right? Musicians, and it's like you throw this idea in this song, and they bounce it around each other, and it becomes a sound. It's like it's been tossed around back and forward between the drummer and the bassist and the guitarist and the lead guitarist and the singer, and then it's back to the drummer, and it gets tossed around until you've got your established song, and then that is the sound of the band. It's such a cool process. And if you've got someone in your band, a roaster, who says no, this is my vision, this is the way it is. I don't know. Sometimes that can be quite limiting, in a bad way.
Yeah. It totally. Again, there's always like nuance, but it depends on what you're expecting already. If you're supposed to be in a collaborative process and your opinions count, or you thought that they did, but really they don't at all, and you're just doing what this guy wants you to do, that can be really, really frustrating. But if you already know, like, you're getting paid and you're getting told to do a certain thing, then it can still be a bit frustrating, even if you do agree, I don't like this, I don't like, but sometimes you have no say in the matter. But yes, I agreed. It's very annoying when that happens, when the control, any kind of creative control, however small. Because even when people tell me, when I've gone into a job and they're like, can you do a certain thing, I usually still have a little bit of creative control within that, and it's fine, and I can still be musical and put ideas out there. But when there's nothing and it's like, you need to do this thing exactly, it sucks. It really sucks.
Now,
it's not fun at all.
A session musician, if you're thinking about it in this context, if the vision is already thought about, and like even in that case, the songwriter should be open to the session musician's suggestions. And I'll give you an example of something that this has happened in real life. Paul Simon after it's maybe around about the same time as Art Garfunkel, Paul Simon Garfunkel. Paul Simon did a solo career thing, and he released an album.
Yeah.
I think it was his first solo album. Could have been, I don't know, 70s. And there was a song on there, in particular, called 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. It's an absolute belter of a track. It's such a good song.
Yes.
And he used session musicians for that whole thing, more or less. And he wrote the song and wrote the arrangement and everything, and just had it all good to go. And the recording day comes around, and he's got Steve Gadd on drums, one of the greatest drummers of all time, amazing jazz drummer, sort of jazz rock drummer, and he's got him in, setting him on the drums. Everything's all sound checked, and he had been working on this. He was working on some like rudiment patterns and things like that, and there was this beat he was practicing, and it was like a militaristic type of march.
Yeah,
and it was like it involved 5-stroke rolls and stuff like this, and included some toms and things. And Paul Simon heard him doing this, and he was just warming up, and he was practicing this. It was part of his practice warm-up routine.
Yeah,
because every drummer has a sort of an evolving practice routine where they play a thing, and at any given moment it could change. So like in 6 months' time, your practice routine could be totally different from 6 months prior. It's just that happened to be what he was playing. And Paul Simon's like, that is really cool what you're playing. I want you to play that on the song. And that was just completely spur of the moment. The drum beat intended for that song was thrown out the window as soon as he heard that. And it's the famous, all that stuff. Yeah. It's a militaristic snare drum type stuff. No cymbals, just hi-hat, snare drum, kick drum, and 2 floor toms. That's the whole tune. And had Paul Simon just went, no, just play the drum beat that I want, I mean, he would have played it, and that would have been it.
Yeah.
But that song would not have that sound. That's the first thing you hear in the song is that beat. And it just puts that little sparkle on it. It's so unique.
Yeah. Those are good sessions. Usually, what I do when I work with people is that I get to actually practice the song with them, and I'm like, I try a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so I did, and then I run them through it. I'm like, I did this, and I did this, and I also did this. What out of what I did, what did you like the best?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I like this, and could you do that? Could you try this? And doing the thing. Actually, that's what good, healthy, creative work should look like. You get to put forward your ideas. The person that's hired you goes, yes, I like that. Or sometimes person that's hired you goes, here's this idea that I have, and then you try it, and then you can, and I've done this before, I'm like, hey, I'm wondering if I could try this instead of this, because I think it'll sound a little bit better.
Yeah.
On the track. And then they're like, okay, let's try it. And I'm not gonna lie, 9 times out of 10 they're like, actually that is better.
Yeah.
There's never there's probably been one time where I've tried it and then I've actually gone nah, and they've gone nah, and my feelings haven't been hurt. It's fine, you need to try these things. And it's very rare I get an instance where you have to play this exactly like this, and you cannot. I mean, like, otherwise, I don't know, man. Like, it's not. It's very rare with like pop and rock and those styles of music. Classical music is a little different because everything's notated.
Yes.
Out for you.
Yes.
But yeah, it's very rare you get somebody that's like,
Yeah, play.
I want you to play this exactly like this.
Yes. So
But it's annoying when
does
it
happen.
does.
It does happen. So yeah, basically what we're saying is, if you write music for a band to play, you'll be faced with pushback with your ideas, and a normal dose of criticism is welcomed. It should be welcomed.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some caveats to that. Like, obviously, if it's like, this is all bad. I've heard stories of bands where they have a structure of, like, this person writes the song, this person just turns up and plays, this person does the online stuff, this person does that. And that's fine. And it works that way for a long time. And then one day, one of the members comes in and goes, hey guys, I've got a song. I've got maybe 5 songs. Do you want to try them? And the band's like, yeah, cool. Yeah, why not? And they hear the song, or they play through, or they hear the guy playing through his song, and they're like, it just doesn't sound like us. Like, is there any chance we can, change this? No, you can't change it, right? I've heard stories of this. And it's like, well, the thing that made you the band prior was the fact that you were able to bounce around ideas, or maybe there was a set songwriter, and the combination of that set songwriter plus those ideas bouncing around in this band created the sound that you have established. Mm-hmm. And when you change that, when it becomes dictatorial or authoritarian, where it's like, this is my idea and this is how you will play it, obviously it's going to be a different sound. And some bands do that. Some bands change their sound drastically. And I don't think, if it's a natural change, I think it's usually welcomed by the audience. If it's not natural, it just doesn't work. I'll think of one example just sprung into my head, was when the Doobie Brothers released, prior to Michael McDonald, the lead singer songwriter fell ill and left the band, had to leave the band, and they brought in Michael McDonald as a replacement lead singer and songwriter. And the first guy was very funky, electric guitar based, and Michael McDonald is very ballady, sort of jazz fusion, 80s piano based. It's completely different. But the change was natural. And as a result, the band was successful in both instances, and can go out today and play 2 different styles of music in the same gig, and it's accepted by the same audience. And it's like, that's because they did it naturally. It wasn't like, this is how you play, this is what you have to do. So it's kind of, I love my analogies. I'm going to use evolution by natural selection. So if and because I grew up on a farm, farmers use artificial selection all the time. That's how we get different breeds of cows and different yields and all this. And
it's not just cows, man. Like dogs, cats,
you name it.
Even rabbits, like boutique rabbits, everything.
So natural selection tends to find the sort of path of least resistance.
Yes.
It's very conservative in that it doesn't waste anything. So what you find is, like, a gene. Think of an idea or a song as a gene, right? To pass on to the next generation. So it has to procreate to pass to the next generation. And that procreation can be passing that idea to someone else to get bounced around to become an evolved finished song in a band.
Yes.
And if you are artificially selecting traits, saying, this is how it will be played, you'll end up with something, but it'll have genetic problems. Like, when you genetically modify cows to produce milk, they shorten their lifespan, they end up with poor feet, because their weight distribution is different, they get bone problems and muscle problems and all of this type of stuff, right? This is just examples.
Yeah, totally. Or even like the other classic example
Pugs.
is the pug.
Yeah.
The pug, or even more tragically, the British Bulldog,
Yeah.
which was a genuine working dog with a purpose, and then people started breeding it, and they were like, well, a British Bulldog must have this trait and this trait
Uh-huh.
and this trait, and now you've got this poor thing. I genuinely think it should be illegal to. Well, there is, there is a movement out there that's basically trying to get the British Bulldog to become the dog that it used to be.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating, but what you've got now is just a thing that struggles to breathe and eat properly and move even, you know.
Yeah.
And it's sad,
Mhm.
really.
Yeah.
You know,
You don't know what you don't know what, like, you're selecting for these traits that you want, but you don't know what else you're selecting without knowing. Like, you don't know what you're bringing in, what problems you're bringing in, and the same goes for songwriting. You don't know how stifling or rigid the song will be. You don't know the consequences, rather than just letting it develop and evolve naturally. You don't know. It's I don't know.
Stagnation.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've kind of touched on this before. Music is a language of human emotion. I think that's the best definition I can think of. So
Yes.
music obviously is a collection of sounds that can communicate human emotion. I think that's a fairly decent explanation of what it is. But the more the music is shared around and the sounds within a song are bounced around a band, the more meaningful it becomes, I think. Or it's more, it's like, if you want to call it like musical truth, like what is musical truth? It's like some songs are good and some songs are bad. And I think good songs are, like, think of Lennon McCartney. People think Lennon McCartney songs are fairly good. Like, the best Beatles songs are the ones that were, it was a collective engagement.
It was a group effort.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah,
I guess.
Totally.
So if you find yourself, this is where we get into the roaster territory. If you find yourself writing down a distinct plan for every riff, chord, bass line, and drum beat with precision for people to just play without much leeway, or forcing a singer to sing the song you wrote precisely how you want it, regardless of their thoughts on it, or arranging the instruments for the song before you've even heard what they sound like together. If you do that, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah, this isn't like a corporate work environment.
No.
You know? No, this isn't an office. You don't need to. It's music is one of these things that is just. It's really organic. Even, like, I'm thinking of guys like Max. Like the guys that write songs for pop singers. Max Martin and his cronies.
Uh-huh.
Even they, to an extent, like, they let the singers that they're working with make choices, make decisions, Like, if you hear demos, if you hear the demo of a song, like, I don't know, for example, maybe Hit Me Baby One More Time, and then you listen to the actual finished product, it's going to sound completely different, because the demo is just an idea.
Yeah.
And then gets developed alongside whoever it is you're working with. If Max Martin was just like, yeah, but I want Britney Spears, or in fact it was TLC that he initially wrote it for.
All right.
The girl, the girl group. which is hilarious.
I didn't know that.
But the reason they didn't like it was because they felt that it's really funny. So "Hit Me Baby One More Time," Max Martin's Swedish. He wanted to say "hit me up one more time," but he misunderstood the phrase. So he wrote "hit me baby one more time," and TLC, who are basically the group's basically their main focus is empowering women. They were like, yeah, not for us, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And Britney Spears was just like, yeah, sure. And I think Britney Spears' management was just like, yeah, that's a good song. We'll take it. We'll get her to sing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
anyway, back to the point. If Max Martin had written the song for Britney Spears, I think it is Max Martin. I'm now doubting myself whether he wrote it. It doesn't matter. If he had written that song and then went in and was like, I actually want you to sing it this very specific way, and we need to do it exactly like this, and it's not changing, I don't think he'd have a job anymore, to be perfectly honest.
No. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, it's just like the most successful people at anything really are they rely on the expertise of other people. It just dictatorships don't work.
Yeah, totally. Like, I'm thinking back to like the old recording studios. You know, like Motown is a perfect example. Imagine if they told James Jamerson, you have to play this very particular bass line. No, they just let him do his job. They were just like, you seem to be pretty good at what you do, you know, and they just gave him his pound of grapes and his whiskey, and he just went to work, and that's what he did. And then they paid him, and that was, you know, that
was the genius behind Berry Gordy, the guy who founded Motown. He started out with nothing, right? And his strength was he just had loads of contacts, and he called up everybody and like, we're going to get everyone working on this, and just he took the song, the idea, and just put it into his environment, and allowed that gene to be naturally selected. Just that raw creativity amongst all these expert musicians and songwriters, and it blew up. It was like a phenomenon when it happened. Motown was like a absolute force of nature. And that was
just a total game changer as well.
He was just a massive like networker. That was his like biggest achievement, was just networking. He just connected people. He just, if he didn't have a thing, he phoned someone who had a thing. Yeah.
And he let people do their job as well. You know?
Yeah.
That's the important thing. Is that he
On you go.
No, I was just gonna stress it. You know, he picked people that he knew could do the job, and he just let them do it.
Yep.
You know?
There's another example of that. It's got nothing to do with music. Well, kind of. Walt Disney was a perfect example of that. If anyone has a Disney Plus account right now, I highly recommend you go watch The Imagineers. It's a documentary. It's like a 6-part documentary on. It's a section, a branch of Disney that was established way back when, whenever it was started, and it was their job to imagine like a vision of Disney in the theme parks and stuff like that. So they basically just had they were basically just designers, architects, everything you can imagine. And basically Walt Disney was he was big enough as a person, didn't have an ego. If he didn't know how to do something, he got someone in his team who was the expert at doing that thing.
Yeah.
That's how he got so successful. That's why it's $1 billion company right now. It's because he relied on the expertise of people. It's because he was willing to go, I don't know everything, and because I don't know everything, I have an obligation to get people who know what they're doing. That's how you create a good company. That's how you create a successful anything.
Yes.
It's such a good documentary as well, because it tells you how they built the theme parks and all the obstacles they had to overcome. And there's a little segment in the middle of it is they built a theme park in California, not Disneyland. It was another one, and it failed miserably because they didn't that whole ethos of using the proper expertise and paying extra close detail to absolutely everything and making it feel like, it was the happiest place on earth. That was kind of the premise. And they didn't follow those rules that Walt Disney laid out, and the park failed inevitably. And they had to completely redesign the entire park. It's fine now, but they managed to fix it. But it just shows you, even they lost their way a little bit. But they managed to pull it back. It's quite an interesting documentary if you have Disney Plus. So
cool.
Yeah, I would say that the sound, we always talk about like, oh, what does this band sound like? Oh, I kind of want to sound a little bit like Oasis, or I want to sound a little bit like U2, or a wee bit like, these bands have sounds. And I think a band's sound is established through this process primarily.
Yes.
I can't see any other way. Bands like that anyway. I mean, there's some manufactured bands that do this where they don't have any creative input at all. It's usually like 16 songwriters all, but even them, like Beyonce's case, like she's got like 12 songwriters or something, and they come up with this song that she's to sing. Even they are passing the ideas around between them.
Yes.
The process is just one level up. It's at the song level rather than the band level. So it's kind of still the same process. It's just removed one layer, which is why you can explain her success. I would say the Monkees are the same. They were a manufactured band from the 60s that tried to mimic the Beatles.
They were,
It's like an American version of the Beatles.
They even had a TV show and everything.
Yeah, I used to watch it as a kid. I'm not from the 60s,
really?
mind you. I grew up in the 90s, but I used to be on TV.
There you go.
I used to watch it. It was great kids television. I don't know why it was on TV in the 90s, but hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? Exactly.
So yeah, bit of a shorter one today, but it's a point worth driving home because it's like I experience it like quite a lot in the studio and working with people, working with musicians, people who forget that the most important part of making music is allowing people to express themselves creatively. That's how you push the music along. And it doesn't just work. In music, it works all across the board. Another example of that is currently I'm watching, because I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan, I've started watching the extended editions again. But I'm going through, so I'm watching the film, the extended edition, like Fellowship. I've just finished the Fellowship, and I've finished watching the making of DVD because I've got the full box set. And it's the same thing. It's like they've got the song, which is the book, which is the Tolkien mythology and the Tolkien books. And they've also got the extended mythology from, they've got the source material is what I'm saying.
Yes.
And Peter Jackson, who's like he's the director, he's saying, right, we need to make this happen in this order. And he hires people who are the best at doing those things and lets them bring their creative thing to the project. And if someone comes up with something that is out with the book, there's something different. I mean, there are things in the films that aren't in the book. So they have diverged.
There's so much.
Yeah.
So much that is not
like
in the movies at all.
If he had taken a dictatorial approach and said what Tolkien did word for word is what we're going to put in this film, it would have been the most boring film in history. I mean, there's I think there's like there's a chapter in there, the Council of Elrond, when they're all talking about what they're going to do with the ring. It lasts for like 2 chapters. It's like over 100 pages, and it's so boring. Whereas in the film, it's like 20 minutes, or 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is. Because you couldn't, like, they acknowledge that they couldn't do that. It would be too long. It would be too boring.
Well, that's the thing. It's a different medium, isn't it? You know, like I'm thinking back to. Actually, this kind of ties in with Skyrim. I hate the really stupid like council that you when you're with the Greybeards, right?
Yes,
in Skyrim,
yeah, the Civil War thing,
and you're talking to the Stormcloaks and the Imperials, and it just takes forever. It
goes on and on.
I don't care. I just want to go fight dragons, please. You know, it's like, but yeah, it's the exact same thing. You know, like that doesn't work.
Yeah. So
if Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim was a book, it's a different medium.
Yeah.
And you actually, you know, depending on how fast you read, you know, 2 chapters can
go like that.
You know, it's like that, and you take in all the information, you know, because you don't read at the same pace that you speak. Generally, you tend to read a lot faster, you know. Whereas in a movie, you are contained, you know, you've got time to work with, and people take their time to say things because that's what it's like.
That's what it's like, yeah.
Yeah, in your head when you're reading, you can imagine it all. It's fine. But in a movie, you have a physical representation being shown right there, you know. It would have probably been 6 films. And the first film, nothing would have happened.
Yeah, nothing. I mean, that's what blew my mind.
If they did it exactly like the book, the first film would be a documentary about hobbits.
Yes, and it would last over 20 years. Because this is the thing that blew my mind about the book, was that by the time, like, when if anyone doesn't like Lord of the Rings, I'm so sorry, but we're gonna when Bilbo leaves from the party and gives Frodo the ring.
Yes.
From that moment till when Frodo leaves the Shire to go off on his adventure, that period is like 20 years later.
Yes.
But in the film, it's like, it could be like, I don't know, a couple of months. It makes you feel like it's a couple of months. A week maybe. But it's not. It's decades later in the book. But you can't, like Peter Jackson even says this in the behind the scenes. He says, we had to be willing to change some things in the book to make it work for a film. Had they not, it would not have been a big hit. And he acknowledges that over and over. You have to be willing to let the ideas evolve as they come out, because it's just too stifling otherwise. And the same goes for recording. When you're arranging, like my last point here was like arranging the instruments for the song before you've even heard what they sound like together. So you could be saying, I want keys, I want electric guitar, I want an acoustic guitar, I want a harmonica, and I want a saxophone, and I want 3 backing vocalists. And you don't really know though, like, because you could come in.
You don't know.
You come in and you record it all, and it's like, it's all clashing. Like the way a normal band would stop that from happening is they would rehearse it. And then they would go, I can't hear the vocals. It's because the harmonica player's playing all over the place. Like, can you stop?
Or like, that keyboard sound doesn't necessarily work. We should maybe change it to this.
Yeah.
You know,
or nothing.
Maybe we should, you know, or just take it away completely. You know, or maybe the Wurlitzer is too soft. We should move in and just have a normal acoustic piano sound.
Yeah.
Whatever
something
it is.
like that. Yeah. So like that you use the rehearsal process to do that. To exchange that whole, you know what it's like when you're in a rehearsal studio. You're playing something, you think, this is okay, and then someone else goes, you're total. That's wrong. You need to play something else. It's completely, to quote one of our band members, thing all over this something else. What was it?
Yes.
What you're playing is just essing all over the whatever.
All over the drums.
All over the drums. Yeah.
And
that's fine because I would rather rather than me play something that doesn't suit the music and not know, I would rather someone tell me what you're playing is not suiting the music. Stop, please, because I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to be playing something that doesn't fit. That's me personally. I mean, there's some things I've played in the past, and I've listened back and I go, oh no, that's
same.
What was I doing? So yeah,
all the time.
This is kind of we've kind of hinted at this idea, but I think this is the most direct we've been about it. It's really important. It's good because it's good to remember because people are starting to rehearse again now. So to keep this in mind, because you've been sitting in your bubbles for like a year and a half and writing, and hopefully people aren't getting too attached. It's a wee bit like Gollum in the Ring, and it's like, my precious, my
yes.
Yes. Like, be willing to, share your thing out and allow people to have their opinions on it. Because this isolation period could create some golems out there, some roaster golems.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's all I wanted to say on that, really. What about you? Anything to add to that?
No, I again, just that point. Don't become like Gollum.
No,
don't do it.
No,
that should be the name of the episode.
Become like Gollum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, next week, I'm hoping to get this interview in the bag for next week because, it'd be pretty good.
It's been tricky.
Just trying to get schedules aligned. So, as always, if you like the podcast, please like the video on YouTube if you're on YouTube. Give us a wee like and a follow on Instagram and on Facebook as well. And if you're just listening on good old podcast stuff, leave us a review, a 5-star review on Apple. And Spotify doesn't let you do anything because that's just how it works. You can share it instead if you want.
It's the same on Google Podcasts as well. You can't actually do anything. You just listen to it. It's like,
that's the one drawback to podcasts is there's no comment section. People think that's a good thing, but I don't think it is. I like comment sections.
I like engaging with people like that.
Sometimes when I'm listening to maybe videos or something, my phone's in my pocket, I'm not actually watching the video, and someone says something like, I'm like, oh, I'll check the comments, see what people are saying, and you go, ooh. And then maybe later on in the day, I'll be listening to a podcast, and I'll be pulling my phone out of my pocket to get the comment section and go, oh yeah, it's a podcast, I can't do that. Oh, that's crap.
Yeah.
I hate that. Maybe it'll change in the future. That would be cool.
Yeah,
but
who knows?
If you want to leave comments on the thing, we've set it up so that you can do it. You can go and do it on YouTube or Instagram, so at least you can have some sort of interaction with people. If anyone has any experiences of what we're talking about, like people telling you what to play and how to play it and stifling the sort of everything we were just talking about, let us know, because we like to. In fact, we should make that a thing, like the other episode where we were reading out the roaster email. It'd be cool if we could get more stories like that, like basically the antithesis to level up your band, people who don't want to level up their bands. Let's just hear it. Let's hear them all. I want to hear as 100%. Many, because it's fun to read out. Make examples of it.
Yeah.
Cool. So that was that. Wee bit shorter today, but hey ho. So it was a good episode, I thought. So hope you enjoyed this and have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.